Hey, good morning to everybody. Happy Thursday. It's Daryl here. It's bright and freaking early. It's 7 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. All right. I want to talk about Aaron Carter again today. I've been looking into it. I'll have the link right down below. Some of the autopsy's been performed. Some of the reports have come back. And there's no conclusive evidence one way or other or another what he actually passed from. It's inconclusive. The results have been deferred or put off. And from what I've read, like I said, the links will be right down below. There'll be a few links so you guys could read it yourselves and get the gist of it. There needs to be more chemical tests conducted to be more specific of why he passed. So that's where that's at. There's no conclusive evidence one way or the other. Now let me talk about the video I did a few days ago. I've been hesitant to read the comments. When I see one of my videos that have not a lot of likes, but a lot of comments, that usually tells me that there's probably a lot of angry people out there. You know, they're commenting, they got something to say about the video, but they didn't, you know, there's no like. That usually kind of, you know, I kind of figured this was going to happen. I want to talk about relapse. You know, the reason I made that video was not to get views. Like I said, I haven't even read the comments yet, so maybe I'm just, you know, I'm worried for the wrong reasons. You know, I don't know, but the reason I made that video is because I feel very strongly about relapse. Usually, in my mind, you got to remember, I'm not a counselor. I have no, you know, no school, nothing about, you know, for counseling or anything like that. This is just my personal experience. 2 decades of using opioids and all hard drugs, and then 16 years of being clean, over 16 years of being completely clean and sober. And this is my take on it. I relapsed quite a few times. I relapsed a good 2 or 3 times, having a month or 2 clean, and then I relapsed. I see myself in Aaron Carter. I really do. The thing about relapse, and this is my own personal opinion, I've heard counselors say, I said in the last video that relapse is part of recovery, and I'll stick by that. A lot of counselors say it's not part of recovery, it's part of addiction. You know, and you know, I'm not going to argue that, but the reason I say it's part of recovery is because a lot of times you're clean. Like if you watch Intervention, the show Intervention, at least 70 or 80% of the people that have been on that show will relapse. You'll see in the end when it says, you know, how the story turns out, and a good 70 or 80% the people relapse again before finally becoming clean. And that's what happened to me. Usually, this is my experience, usually that little addict voice is still in the back of your head. It's, you know, I look back to the manipulative person that I used to be, and I remember saying, you know, I'm clean, and I never go back to, you know, doing that again, and I'm so happy. But that little voice was still, you know, it was still going on in the back of my head. And it takes time and a lot of experience. And with me, it took a relapse. You know, and that's why I can connect with Aaron Carter. Usually, in my opinion, there's 2 ways that a relapse can go. Because usually you've been clean for a while. And when you're clean for a while, 2 things happen. You tend to build up money because you haven't been wasting it all on narcotics. And the other thing that happens is your tolerance goes down. You know, and an addict knows this. Addicts know this. You know, like you've heard before, addicts will seek out things that are dangerous, you know, dangerous to them. Addicts will seek out, like when a particular batch is lethal, they'll seek out that particular batch. I remember being in, it was a detox and sitting around talking. And one of the guys there was already talking about when he got out and relapsing. And how he thought it would be a great, you know, because he thought it would be a great buzz. You know, and people talk like this, you know, when addicts are talking, because his tolerance would have gone down. And it's also dangerous. It's lethal. A lot of times, most times, addicts will go back and do the same amount that they were doing before they got clean. You know, with me, I started off at a bag or 2. And when I finally got clean, I was doing 10 or 15. You know, and, you know, of course, you know, after a couple months clean and sober, if I went back and did that, I wouldn't be sitting here. You know, that's the reason I did this video. A lot of times you get pushed either one way, or you get clean for good. And that's what happened to me. Like I said, I relapsed a couple times, and I probably talked about this before. This was when I was more using crack cocaine. And I relapsed. I had been clean and sober. I was in the methadone program. And I had been clean and sober for a good 2 or 3 months. In the back of my head, that little voice, I never told anybody else, but that little voice was talking, and I was counting up the money I was saving. I had a couple $100s, and I was like, boy, one of these days I'll just sneak off by myself, and have a good time, just by myself. And that's what happened. And it was the worst day of my entire using career. Right? And it pushed me. I'll just fill you guys in. My car died. I locked the keys in my car. This had never happened before, and I went to start the car, and it was just completely dead. I got pulled over by the police, not once, but twice. I remember they searched my trunk. It was a day full of terrible things. And this is the way it ended. I spent that whole couple $100 over the period of the day. And I'm by myself. It's October 23rd, 2006, and I'm sitting in a dark parking lot in front of a supermarket, and I see families going in. It's about 8 or 9 o'clock at night, coming out. The store's about to close, and it's a particularly cold day, and I'm sitting there all by myself, and I have the car turned off because I didn't want it to attract any attention. And I'm waiting for a dealer, a guy I had never even met before because I couldn't get a hold of any of the other people that I knew. And I was down to change. I was down to a bag of change that I had scrounged up. Quarters, nickels, and dimes, a bag. Barely $20, probably more like 19. And the guy kept putting me off. Oh, I'll be there in a half hour. I'll be there in 45 minutes. And I ended up sitting there for 2.5, 3 hours in a dark parking lot, watching the families go in and out with a bag of change after spending hundreds of dollars that day. And having just thing after thing go wrong. Police locking my car, locking my keys in my car, and it was a moment of clarity. And it's like, why am I doing this to myself? I remember specifically just seeing the families, living their lives, smiling, going in and out, and just what I was doing to myself. Sitting there, waiting to give my last dime, literally my last dime, to somebody I didn't even know for maybe 2 minutes of a high. And then I'd feel even worse than I did right at that moment. It's just insanity. And I had that moment of clarity, just looking around me. I'm cold, I'm shivering, it's dark, sitting there for hours, waiting to give away my last dimes. And it just hit me. This has to stop. This is insane. This is insanity. It was that moment of clarity. See, that I believe it happens to some people. Some people, it goes the other way, especially with opioids. And possibly with Nick Carter. Aaron Carter. We don't know that yet. But, and I didn't mean to insinuate anything. I still have yet to read the comments. And, I'm not trying to insinuate that's what happened. I don't know if that's what happened. But in Aaron Carter, I see myself. Like I said at the beginning of that video, there before the grace of God go I. And I didn't say that to be cute or just to sound cool or whatever. I said that with all my heart. Because that could have been me if I didn't happen to find that moment of clarity. So we're still waiting to see. The autopsy's been deferred. The links are down below. God bless you all. Recovery is possible.